Over Tekken's multi-decade lifespan existence, there has been a wide variety of secrets and unlockables. But what are the hardest in every single game? Before we begin this journey, I want you to do something the first time you start up every single one of these games. Go into the options mode and we're going to adjust a couple of things. And this can be applied to pretty much every single one of the games you will see in this video. Set the difficulty to easy, 1 round. Guard damage is preferred but not needed, and quick select. In 99% of cases, I would also set the timer to the lowest amount possible, so you're not wasting any unnecessary time, because most of the time, especially if you have guard damage on, you should be winning the timeouts. Don't forget to enable character change at continue for specific games. Trust me, you're really gonna need it. If you have trigger and bumper combinations you typically use when you play other games, I would try your best to set those now. Last and probably the most important, enable auto save. You have no reason to not have this on, and trust me, you do not want to have everything unlocked only to boot up again just to find out you don't have anything unlocked, right? Let's start at Tekken 1, and the first unlockable I want to talk about here is Heihachi. To unlock Heihachi, you'll have to clear arcade mode without using a single continue. This is a pretty daunting task considering there are 8 stages / rounds you have to go through before you unlock Heihachi. However, there is a way to simplify this and make this a lot easier. Assuming you applied all the settings I told you in the beginning of this video, we're going to be picking King. And at the start of every round, I want you to go for a throw. This is because the AI has a really hard time in Tekken 1 for some reason, dealing with throws right off the bat. But make sure they're generic throws, not command throws. Throws like Giant Swing have little to no range in the older titles, so just go for the generic throws. You'll get good damage right off the bat. Also, spam moves like alley kicks and down forward 1, which, fun fact, down forward 1 is plus 96 on block, so you have no reason not to spam this. Also, there is no move in this game that can properly punish alley kicks, so you pretty much have a free brain dead low, which will get an occasional counter hit here or there that you can get away with risk-free. You may have trouble with Heihachi, and if you do have trouble clearing this with King, just clear the arcade mode with King without worrying about clearing it without losing a round, and try it with Armor King. He has the exact same moves, but also has crouch dash cancel attacks like Wing God Fist, Dragon Upper, and a crouch dash 4, which is a really good poke. But the hardest unlock, in my opinion, in Tekken 1 easily goes to the Tekken 1 Devil Skin. When the game starts up, you'll be greeted with the classic title Galga. And to unlock the Devil Skin, you basically need to get 8 perfects in this Galga stage. This sounds simple, but trust me, this is the most difficult unlock in Tekken history, in my opinion. I straight up rage quitted trying to do this, and despite my best efforts, unfortunately I couldn't achieve this one. However, I did have a friend who got this legitimately, and he said he had to use tape on his monitor to get it and took him multiple days to achieve this. So trust me, it's only a few minutes, but it is a nightmare of a few minutes, and Galga is a completely different set of skills you need to acquire, especially for this skin. And trust me, 8 perfects is a nightmare. If you're brave enough to try this, I'll link a video or 2 in the description showing how this can be done properly, but do be warned, it is not easy. We're now going to talk about Tekken 2, and the 2 hardest unlockables are Wireframe mode and Sky mode. These are special modes that can be accessed through a code and require you to unlock every character in the game before you can access them. By holding L1 and L2 while after selecting a character, you will go into wireframe mode, and this will basically put you in a first-person mode. I highly recommend against playing this mode because it is extremely disorienting, especially with the moon jumping. Sky mode will increase the launching distance by a large amount. It also apparently decreases pushback on moves from what I've seen online, but I can't really confirm this. Now, here's where things get really interesting, specifically with Sky Mode. You see, if you go online, especially on the old forums showing off and talking about all the unlockables, they say you have to unlock all the characters, which is correct. However, if you look at the very bottom of some of these sections, you'll notice a like to dislike ratio, and the dislike ratio being highly bigger than the liking ratio. This is because the description of accessing Sky Mode isn't actually correct, only technically correct, as the teeny tiny detail they are missing here is a second controller. Not only do you have to unlock all the characters, but you need to input the up and select code on player 2. I remember unlocking all the characters and then trying Sky Mode on player 1 and pulling my hair out thinking I had to beat the game with all the characters. And after beating the game with all the characters, I was going even crazier because I was just totally confused. I literally beat the game of everyone. Why is this code not working? And I had to find a 10-year-old YouTube video that vaguely told me that I needed to do the code on a second controller. This is also the only code where you need a second controller for some reason. And if you were to play something like arcade mode or survival mode, you would have to manually input the code every time if you want to use it. What made this really confusing for me especially is the fact that there is another code that you always have access to from the start, which is the big mode, which basically inflates the size of your character, and that's accessed by simply holding select. So by enabling Sky Mode, whether you do it correct or not, you will get an inflated character. So it made it all the more confusing. But what's the most effective and fastest way to achieve all of the characters? Let's start by applying the optimal options like we discussed earlier, and of course not forgetting to autosave. Now before selecting a character, here is the golden goose information you need to hear when doing this as fast as possible. And that is, you do not have to clear the entire arcade mode with the character, you just have to beat Devil with a different character. So for grinding the other 9 stages, pick whoever you want. I chose Paul as my golden boy because he is super good at speedrunning arcade mode. You can kill a lot of the earlier stages with Burning Fist, as you can press back 1+2, which is how you activate Burning Fist, and if you hit them, you can do a wall running 1+2, and that should confirm the kill. It's much harder to do later on as the AI will jump over you, but Death Fist does a ton of damage in this game and it's impossible to punish, so you can also just kind of throw that out from time to time. And if you can do Ultimate Tackle, that's another bonus. And yes, it does exist in Tekken 2. Whoever your favorite character is, just make sure to throw the final round and then pick the character you need to get the unlock with to beat Devil. Once you've completed this with all 8 of the characters, pick any of the sub-boss characters you want. Bruce and Armor King are really good, especially Bruce. He has some really brain-dead stuff in this game and just has really OP range. After doing this, you should be able to unlock Kazuya. Please note that if you clear arcade mode with a sub-boss character before beating the game with all the regular characters, you will not automatically unlock Kazuya. You have to clear it with all the regular characters first, then the sub-boss. It has to be in that order. I played with an unlockable character earlier thinking I could skip playing all the regular characters, only to find out that Kazuya was not unlocked. So do it in the correct order. Also during this journey, you will unfortunately have to unlock Roger, which is a really awkward one where you have to get a grate on stage 3 specifically. For whatever reason, I have no idea. If you want the easiest way to unlock Roger, during one of your runs, set the timer to infinite and let the opponent knock you down and just keep ground hitting you. Chances are whatever ground hits your opponents have are very low damaging unless you're fighting Jack. So you can kind of just wait until you are super duper low on health, then kill your opponent quickly, and you should get it great. You also should know if you got it if you fight Roger the very next fight. Once you have Kazuya and Roger, clear the arcade mode with Kazuya, and then Devil should unlock, and this should be every character unlocked. Have fun with the cheat codes too, not that you can do much with them. Now let's move on to Tekken 3, where things start to get a little weird with the unlockables, but also kind of flexible with them at the exact same time. In terms of unlockable characters, the two that are worth mentioning and stand out over the rest is True Ogre and Dr. Bosconovich. For True Ogre, you just have to clear arcade mode about 9 times. Now, you can do this with the same character 9 times, but I highly recommend against doing this. If you're gonna have to play arcade mode 9 times, you might as well play 9 different characters and get a bunch of more endings for it and unlocks. For Dr. Bosconovich, you have to complete Tekken Force Mode 4 times, and on that last run, you will face Dr. Bosconovich. This is actually a lot more difficult than you think if you do it incorrectly, because you only have 1 life bar, so if you die, you start all of it over from the complete beginning. And trust me when I say everyone hits pretty hard in this Tekken Force mode, so you don't have a lot of room for error. However, there is a way to cheese your way through it with little to no effort, and something a child could do no problem. And there's actually a pretty decent chance you figured this out without even realizing it. To get this, however, we need to get access to Gon, the special guest character of this game. While you can unlock him through 650 games, there is a better way to unlock him. Clear arcade mode with every non-unlockable character. And once you do this, you'll gain access to Tekken Ball mode. If you're able to complete a Tekken Ball match and win at least once, you will unlock Gon. Gon will be your key to cheesing through Tekken Force mode, as mashing the 4 button grants you the OP tailspin. He does this tailspin sweep, and he is able to spam it quite rapidly, and the AI does not know how to handle this properly. So you can pretty much cheese your way through this mode with little to no issue. As long as you move around properly, you should have little to no problem clearing Tekken Force mode. Again, you can use a character you like, but you're putting yourself in a much more difficult, unnecessary situation. Tekken 3 also has quite a few alternate costumes for some characters, and if you wanted to know the most difficult ones, it's Jin and Ling's school uniforms. You have to play them 50 times and then select the costumes by pressing start. If you wanted to grind both these costumes out real quick, just play as Ling and Jin in a player versus match and just play 50 games and just have one person get killed 50 times, and you should be able to get this real quick and have both costumes. And even though it's not that difficult, I want to mention Jack's special ending. For some reason, when you clear the arcade mode with Jack, you don't get his entire ending. To get his entire ending with the extended cutscene, clear arcade mode again with him. You should also unlock his Tekken 2 skin along the way, after 10 matches. Now let's talk about Tekken Tag 1, which is easily one of my favorites of the franchise when it comes to the classic game. There isn't a lot of unlockables here. It's really just unlocking the remaining characters by completing the arcade mode an X amount of times. And if you're curious, Unknown is of course the last character you unlock through these specific conditions. Along the way, when you complete arcade mode for the very first time, you'll get access to theater mode, which is where you can view all the endings to the game and all the endings you unlocked depending on which characters you cleared the arcade mode with. The character that gets the unlocked ending is always the first character you pick. So if you want one character to play nonstop, always make that the secondary character so you can ensure you unlock the needed ending. Devil Kazuya, which is one before Unknown, will also unlock gallery mode along with unlocking Devil Kazuya. This is where you can basically take screenshots via the pause menu. So kind of an interesting little thing, but I don't know if there's that much use or practicality for it. Making it to True Ogre will give you access to Tekken Bowl, which goes to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is Jukebox mode, which basically allows you to select a specific song while you're playing Tekken Bowl mode, which if you're playing Tekken Bowl, you need to reconsider your life options because this is quite an atrocious game mode. However, if you really hate yourself and manage to score 200 points in the Tekken Bowl mode, you will gain access to whichever song you want to be tortured with. Now, if you don't know how bowling scores work, 200 is an insanely high number. You basically need to get around 7 to 8 strikes in a row for you to achieve a score this high. It is very hard to achieve. And when I unlocked this on my original PlayStation 2, I don't have a CRT monitor or any converters to help with input lag, so I had to do this on input lag, and this took me a good 2 to 3 days to complete, and it was an absolute nightmare to get, and I highly don't recommend going for it. It's just purely for the completionist side of me. But if you're curious, I remember using Devil Kazuya. You really only need one character to do the trick, and just pick an OP one. But yeah, I remember picking switching around between Kazuya, Devil Kazuya, and Heihachi, and I think Devil Kazuya did the trick for me. Now we evolve into the world of walls, and that is Tekken 4, the black sheep of the franchise, and the most aesthetic of the franchise to the community. This game really does not have a lot of unlockables, even less than Tekken Tag and the previous games as well. However, there are still unlockables, and we can pretty much talk about all of the unlockables because there is that few in this game. Tekken 4 does the classic of complete arcade mode X amount of times to unlock said character. Now, the theoretical hardest character to unlock is technically Combat, which requires 9 story mode or arcade clears. However, if you play as Li Chaolang and complete his arcade mode the moment you get him, you can actually get Combat right away. If you do take this alternate route to unlock Combat, that leaves Heihachi, which requires 8 story mode clears to unlock, making him technically the actual hardest character in the game to get access to. Before we move on to the stages, there is an extremely, and I mean extremely important note when unlocking characters in Tekken 4, and that is do not play arcade mode under any circumstances. You will be playing story mode every single time. It is completely pointless to play arcade mode, as when you clear arcade mode, you do not get the character's ending. So you will have to replay that character in story mode if you want the ending. So if you want to be time efficient, just clear story mode with every character and you'll never have to touch arcade mode. I made that mistake the first time I tried to unlock everything in Tekken 4, and I'm like, where's all my endings? Just to realize I had all the characters but no unlocked endings, which was kind of embarrassing. So save yourself the trouble and only play story mode. Arcade mode, again, it's like time attack mode. It's really confusing when most of the previous games call it arcade mode. I don't know, it's just fighting game UI. Clearing story mode with Steve unlocks one of the 2 secret stages in the game, which is the statue stage, which plays old school Tekken 1 to 2 legacy music and randomly switches between the songs, which is also really interesting to say the least. But the hardest unlockable, in my opinion, to get in Tekken 4 is the dojo stage, which is the coolest stage in the game. To get this, we're gonna have to clear Tekken Force mode. Now, thankfully, we will only have to clear this once, but the playthrough in Tekken Force mode is definitely harder than the Tekken 3 one and a little harder to exploit. Now, like I said before, you can play your diehard loyal character and see if you have any luck. One of my main character in this game is Paul, and I couldn't even beat the first stage playing properly. That's because that's not really Tekken. So you kind of have to play a little different and out of the box when it comes to clearing Tekken Force Mode. And what helped me clear Tekken Force Mode was picking Kazuya and spamming the most overpowered move in the history of Tekken's lifespan, and that is helicopter kicks. I literally just spammed this. The AI does not know how to block low mid, and even if they do block it randomly, they're not going to launch punish you for half your life bar. So that kind of makes it OP. It has amazing AoE, which is really important for Tekken Force Mode, especially with the weird, annoying lock-in system. It's just kind of a weird system, Tekken Force Mode altogether, especially even in the later games too, I'd argue, but take advantage of AoE style attacks. You don't have to play Kazuya to do it. Some online guides have said King, but Kazuya was extremely reliable in clearing Tekken Force Mode for me. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. And if there is anything, and I mean anything throughout any of these games that I missed that should be worth mentioning, let everybody know in the comments, because I want to get as accurate of documentation on all the unlockables as possible, because apparently it has not been accurate for a very long time online. So let's make at least a place online where the information is accurate. Stick around because part 2 is coming out soon.